In the middle of tremendous darkness and personal tragedy, false lights are trying to guide us, and they can bring shipwreck. We must be focused on God's pathways and His light in the storms of life. Christ is the light of navigation. Hello, and welcome to the Light of Navigation and this Reflections podcast. My name is Marguerite Lever-Woodall, and I'm an author and speaker and your host. In these podcasts, I love to explore and contemplate different life issues and their solutions through the lens of God's wisdom and His words. This is part 2 of the 25th episode of Reflections. I'm moving on from the Jezebel Threats in part 1 to speak on the Jezebel Life. There's a more in-depth look here at what it looks like if we're living the Jezebel-like lifestyle, where we have to be in control. It takes a lot of energy to do that, don't you think? Join me in giving thought on the tough issues of life, and let's discover God's pathways through them. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3, verse 5. It's all about dominance and control. I think we're born into the need to control our lives and circumstances because of Adam's mess up. It's just like kids are born with the propensity to lie first, not to tell the truth. They have to be taught how to tell the truth, not how to lie. You ever notice that? In the Bible, you'll read about the numerous life stories that speak loudly to our shortcomings and downright dark sides as human beings. The most classic example of this was about Jezebel, a Phoenician princess that married an Old Testament Jewish king named Ahab. As I mentioned before in the previous episode of Reflections, she was known widely for her takeover of Israel's culture and for her dedicated pagan worship. She had 450 priests attending to a pagan god and its worship, which she introduced to everyone. Her actions drew most of the Hebrew people away from the worship of the one true God. She stopped at nothing to achieve what she wanted for herself or for those she loved, even to the extent of murdering others. She was the quintessential controller. And in her marriage, she wore the pants. Jezebel's name has also evolved into the representation of a feminine fatale persona that supposedly has incredible control over men. Speaking of that, ladies, how many of us are wearing the pants? No excuses now. I can just hear it. He won't wear them, so I have to. I do understand. In America, as independent women, I believe we've somehow carried that independent spirit over into our marriages in an unhealthy way. I'm reminded of a young woman, a friend whom I ministered to years ago. In conversations, there was the recognition of the fact that she had an unusual, seductive control over men in her life. Indeed, she almost bragged about it. I listened as she recounted the events of different affairs in her personal life. At one point, she had seduced the Christian counselor who was recommended to her. This action shattered his family. She was the downfall of more than one man and their marriage. Her lust for power and control was deeply rooted. This was the Jezebel spirit in operation in one facet, and it was a demonic force in her life. This woman made no bones about it. She knew it was part of her life, and more importantly, what it was. When I asked her if she wanted freedom from this spirit, she adamantly refused, stating that she could not give up the power it gave her in relationships and in life. I was stunned that she deliberately chose to keep what she consciously knew was a demonic spirit. I had encountered this possession on a greater level with another individual several years earlier, and I was taken aback by the powerful magnetism it presented itself with. I'm so grateful that God's power far outstrips that. In the midst of this, I want to take a closer look at our need to control everything and everyone around us. Because of the pain and abuse we face in this world, it seems natural to take control in every way we can to avoid possible future emotional pain. It's easy to see the obvious bid for controls in life. It's not difficult to spot someone's controlling attitude when manifested more openly in different circumstances. What's more disturbing, though, is that it comes so naturally to us that we can overlook the subtle ways that we can operate in it. I've learned over the years that much can be understood about those subtle bids for control in our lives by looking at our style of relating with others. It's how we come across to others in our relationships. How would others describe how they experience you? For example, would they say that you place a high value on keeping the peace? What about having difficulty saying no? Do others experience you as easy to fear, or that you tend to be critical? Are you described as being an excuse maker? Or would someone liken you to a house with the lights on, but nobody's home? All of these character descriptions are rooted in subtle control known as self-protection. Someone who has difficulty saying no is controlling their relationships by going with the flow. Then there's no upsetting the boat and any risk of emotional pain that may come with confrontation. An intimidating individual is controlling relationships with fear, to either gain something or to prevent or thwart any personal attack ahead of time. If someone makes excuses and shifts responsibilities, it can be to control any perceived fault on their part, which can be painful emotionally for them. No one wants to be seen as a failure. These are just a few descriptions of self-protection's control methods with friends and family. We violate relationships all the time with a variety of self-protective avenues. There is legitimate and illegitimate control that we can practice in life. Now, I'm not speaking about legitimate control that is necessary with leadership and management arenas or physical safety. I'm addressing here what is detrimental from a scriptural perspective in our relationships. Harmful control issues are born out of either pure self-centeredness and greed, or the fear of exposure as inadequate or a failure. Self-protection is a way of life, and few people recognize it. It's a Jezebel-like way of living or lifestyle that has to be in control at all times. The antithesis or opposite of this way of living is an absolute trust in God. It's a trust in His character and who He is through deepening relationship with Him. Trust is not earned. That presupposes someone owes you if they violated your trust. Rather, it is built over time as you come to know someone or a restoration of a relationship is needed. Whether this self-protection is born out of self-centeredness or fear, as Christians, we are called to drop it all. We are called to trust God with our relational and emotional well-being on a personal level at all times. When we try to control, we are being wise in our own eyes, as the scriptures refer to it. We're trying to take over to protect ourselves where we shouldn't be, most often to avoid emotional pain of some sort. The point is this constant controlling posture in life is incredibly stressful physically under the surface. I remember when a very wise man who was mentoring me in my early years as a Christian told me to drop all self-protection of this kind, and I told him he was crazy. It was unfathomable to me. I couldn't get my head around it at the time. And nevertheless, I respected him, and I looked into his wise advice and found out he was 100% correct. One of the greatest health threats to anyone is stress. Physicians adamantly refer to this as a major contributor to disease. Anyone would readily acknowledge that stress can be a real taskmaster in life. And if we look closely and examine our lifestyle and just how much the need to control contributes to it, most of us would be shocked. And I've found this to be true in my own life. There's more to the Proverbs 3:5 that I shared at the beginning here, and it's in the following verses 7 through 8. For years I've read this scripture and even memorized it, but I never looked at the following verses after it. There's more to the story about letting go of the controlling we do in life. There's benefits when we do, and it's a surprising one. It's a promise of health. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. Proverbs 3:5 through 8. Thank you for taking time to listen today. You know, trying to control everything in life does take a lot of energy. If this podcast episode would bless someone you know, please pass it on. Your comments are always valued, and subscribing is appreciated. Do many of us really reign in life? What is true success from God's view? In the next episode of Reflections titled Reigning in Life, I explore what it is to truly master life God's way.